of GST and Indirect Tax Committee of ICAI, CA Rajendra Kumar sir, to welcome our speaker and all the participants. I request our chairman, CA Roy Varghese, to deliver the welcome address.
Good afternoon. Very respected chairman of GST and Indirect Tax Committee of ICAI, Central Council member CA Rajendra Kumar sir, colleagues in Managing Committee of Ernakulam branch of ICAI, and seniors, colleagues and friends in profession. Today it is the second day of the 5-day GST refresher course organized by GST and Indirect Tax Committee of ICAI and hosted by Ernakulam branch of ICAI. Yesterday, CA Mrs. Viral Khandar from Chennai led the discussion on classification concepts in GST. And many of the participants appreciated the session about this usefulness and the good presentation also. And today, our honorable chairman of GST and Indirect Tax Committee is leading the discussion on concept of place of supply in GST. The selected GST topics for the refresher course are intended to help the participants refresh and update their knowledge. We are sure the refresher course will be very useful to each and every one of the participants attending. Chairman of GST and Indirect Tax Committee, Sri Rajendra Kumar sir is a very good friend of Ernakulam branch and always ready to support us whenever there is a need. He is an authority on indirect taxes, particularly on GST. We are sure his interaction with us today will enlighten us and give us more inputs on the concept of place of supply. On our request, Rajendra Kumar sir was here yesterday with us to inaugurate the GST refresher course, and today we are happy to have him with us as a resource person. Sir, we are really thankful to you for all the support and guidance given to us. On behalf of Ernakulam branch of ICAI and all of you present here today, I extend a warm welcome to the resource person today, the chairman of GST and Indirect Tax Committee, Central Council member CA Rajendra Kumar sir. Let me also welcome all the Managing Committee members of Ernakulam branch present here today, Secretary CA KB Jos, Vice Chairman Ranjit Warrior, and all other members. And finally, on behalf of Ernakulam branch of ICA, it is my pleasure to welcome each and every one of the participants attending the refresher course and making this refresher course meaningful. Before concluding, let me bring before you 2 points. If any member wants to raise a question, he can raise it in the question answer box. If the member wishes to raise the question directly to the resource person, please express it in the question answer box and you will be called to raise the question in person at the appropriate time. Secondly, the branch will be submitting the report of registration and attendance to GST and IDT committee and also the CP Directorate after the completion of the refresher course. Your CP entitlement will be reflecting only after that. Hello, seniors and colleagues, wishing you all have a wonderful learning time today. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you all for the patient listening. Over to CA Jos KB for the proceedings.
Thank you, Chairman CA Roy Varghese. Now I'm very happy and privileged to introduce our faculty for this afternoon, CA Rajendra Kumar P. The only Indian on the technical advisory group to the Working Party 9 on consumption taxes, OECD headquartered in Paris, France. CA Rajendra Kumar has many feathers to his cap, including the highest score in IDT ever scored by any student. He is the first elected president of International Chamber of Indirect Tax Professionals headquartered at Chennai. He is currently serving his second tenure in the Central Council. Currently, he is the chairman of the GST and Indirect Taxes Committee of ICAI. He was the president of the prestigious Hindustan Chamber of Commerce for the year 2018-19. He is the founder member of Chamber of Indirect Tax Professionals, Chennai, and has written and presented over 800 papers, both in India and outside India. He has authored the books, namely Gate to Service Tax and Value Added Tax Concept and Indian Perspective. CA Rajendra Kumar P is a recipient of many awards, including Sir Tyagaraja Award, Royal Excellence Award, etc., etc. As the 34th president at the age of 31, he was the youngest president of the Lions Club of Madras East during the year 2001-2. He is the founder secretary of the Association of Chartered Accountants, Chennai. The logo of the association was designed by him, and his slogan, "Share Knowledge, Spread Light," was adopted by the Association of Chartered Accountants, Chennai, as their official slogan. So with these words, I introduce before you today's faculty, CA Rajendra Kumar. Over to you, sir.
Very esteemed Chairman of the Ernakulam branch of SIRC of ICAI, Roy Varghese, very esteemed Secretary, Jose sir, my good friend Ranjit Warrior, other esteemed managing committee members who are present here in this program today. I hope I am audible, Chairman sir, very clearly. My voice is reaching you properly.
Yes, very clear, sir. Very clear.
Whether I am visible or not is not the question. My voice must reach. I think it is reaching.
It's very good. Very good, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much. Other participants from across the length and breadth of the country who have registered and who are participating in this special refresher course organized by one of the most successful and one of the largest branches in India, the largest branch in the state of Kerala, that is God's own country, Ernakulam. In fact, as the chairman of the GST and Indirect Taxes Committee, I am extremely happy to note that the Ernakulam branch has taken this initiative. And I was thrilled that this morning I received a telephone call from a member of the Solapur branch. The member lives in Solapur. Solapur is a textile city in the wonderful state of Maharashtra. And the member concerned wanted registration for few of his friends because of the fact that excellent topics have been organized for the discussion and good speakers. And from the yesterday's excellent talk delivered by the faculty, he was convinced that all the faculties will be great. I would only wish, after hearing my speech, he continues to maintain the same feedback that the yes faculty was good. That way, friends, we are all on the electronic mode. It is COVID times. And I am confident that all of you, your family, your near and dear ones are safe, hale and healthy. All of us are following the government regulations, government guidelines. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, through its digital learning hub and through the information technology portal, is organizing numerous courses, has facilitated a platform in the institute for us to keep us engaged. Our sincere thanks to the Honorable President ICAI, CA Atul Kumar Ji Gupta, Honorable Vice President CA Nihar Jambusaria Ji, for their vision, for their commitment, for their dedication. I also place on record here my sincere appreciations for the futuristic vision of immediate past President CA Prafulla Chhajed, whose futuristic vision paved way for the commencement of the digital learning hub, and whose throttle and push in the SSP made the institute active and made the members connected across the length and breadth of the country. My good friend CA Babu Abraham Kallivailil, the Central Council member from the state of Kerala. In fact, it is his vision that education of members, continuous upgradation of knowledge must happen. Friends, Ernakulam branch has been in the forefront. From the time I have known the branch for more than 2 decades, the branch has always won the #1 award at the national level in all the parameters. They are one of the intellectual branches. In fact, state of Kerala is the 100% literate state in India. An international state in India, I must say, where from every house there is one person who lives abroad. A state which earns the largest foreign exchange for the country in terms of its geographical size. A state which has the largest number of branches of ICAI in terms of its geographical size. A state which is beautiful. People are very warm, friendly, and affectionate. A tourism state. This state is one of the biggest beneficiaries of GST implementation in the country. In fact, the finance minister of this state for some time, last a few years, was the chairman of the Empowered Committee of Finance Minister, which is actually what is the GST Council today. That way, Kerala had a major role to play in formation of GST in this country. Friends, from the GST and Indirect Taxes Committee, I bring you greetings. I bring you warmth. I bring you happiness. This committee is one of the most active committees of ICAI, and I thank our Honorable President ICAI Atul Kumar Ji Gupta for reposing confidence in me, for keeping his faith in me. And along with other Central Council members in the committee, co-opted members and the special invitees, the committee has been in the forefront at all levels, whether it is interaction with the government, whether it is making representation to the government, whether it is talking and interacting with the trade and industry of the country, whether it is skill upgradation and knowledge enhancement of our members and all stakeholders. Our committee has been in the forefront. Our committee has published 11 publications in the month of May. Those are all small booklets which will be useful to our members and all stakeholders. And these publications are available for free download on the ICAI's GST committee web portal. And our committee is also embarking upon 10 more publications, which includes one fully answered FAQ of 600 plus questions. The flagship background material of the committee will be released by this month end, fully updated. The committee is also frequently conducting certificate courses, webinars, lecture meetings, talks by eminent professionals. Esteemed friends, continuing with our knowledge upgradation and skill enhancement, today's topic, place of supply, is of extreme significance in the context of the federal country like India. I am not going to make any PowerPoint presentation, friends. In fact, I have never made one, but I am going to take you to the provisions of the place of supply in the next about 2+ hours, and then open up for questions, which I believe will be numerous. Before I proceed to the GST proper, let us know the history of the indirect taxation in India with special reference to sales tax, CST and VAT. Esteemed friends, all of you are aware that India is a federal country with numerous states and union territories and two-layered governance of central government and the state government. The Constitution of India empowers the center to tax. The Constitution of India also empowers the states to levy tax. Of course, the Constitution also lays down certain restrictions on central taxation as well as state taxation. We need not go into all those now. But let us take the history of sales tax. Sales tax was the origin-based tax. CST, the central sales tax, was also origin-based tax. But GST is a destination-based tax. So there has been a marked shift in the principle. India adopting the international principle followed by 150 plus countries of the OECD model. India is also an observer country of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, in short, the OECD. And India adopts the principles and guidelines laid down by OECD in the destination-based consumption tax, which is we call as GST, and some world countries call it as VAT. As a member of the technical advisory group of the OECD, or rather only Asian on the academic category of the members of the OECD's technical advisory group, consisting of about 60 odd members drawn from 20 to 30 nations, I have got the opportunity to work very closely with the OECD's model of consumption taxes, which is what India is implementing also. And hence, in a way, I have also been a part and parcel of the development of this law in this country. Friends, the place of supply provisions that we are going to read now together, that we are going to understand now together, is principally what is laid down by international countries. You will find these place of supply provisions similar in almost all the countries, if not the same. There may be some adjustments based on the geographical locations, based on the economy of the country, but principles will be the same. Esteemed friends, in sales tax era, in the VAT era, when the goods were sold within the jurisdiction of a particular state, the state sales tax or the state value added tax will apply, which is intra-state sale. When there is a movement of goods from one state to another state, the central sales tax took over, so CST will apply. In fact, the sales tax and the VAT taxed goods, and there was a levy under the Finance Act 1994, where services were levied a tax by the central government. When these particular taxes are levied, esteemed friends, Indian GST, which was basically the creation of the Empowered Committee of Finance Ministers. Here I would take one small deviation. In the year 1991, the then Prime Minister of India, the Honorable P.V. Narasimha Rao, under the dynamic again leadership of the then Finance Minister Manmohan Singh, they jointly form a committee called Taxation Reforms Committee, and Dr. Raja J. Chellaiah becomes the first chairman of that committee, and he proposes a thorough overhaul in the indirect taxes levy in this country. The government accepts his report, Empowered Committee of Finance Minister is set up, and we move towards a VAT regime. In the year 2000, The Vajpayee government appoints Dr. Vijay Kelkar as the second chairman of the Taxation Reforms Committee, and again reforms are suggested. GST becomes implemented from 1st July 2017. Goods and services are combined and taxed under one single legislation called the Central Goods and Services Tax. And India being a federal country, the state goods and services tax is also legislated by almost all the states, and union territories legislate the Union Territory Goods and Services Tax Act. The provisions in all the acts are same. They are one and the same with very minimal or almost none deviation. Friends, during the question of our discussion, I may be permitted to have a small cup of tea so that my talk is smooth and my throat is further smooth. In fact, all of you are also permitted to engage in having a cup of tea or coffee or whatever it may be during the course of hearing my talk. Because you are only going to see my face with a bald head and not the PowerPoint presentation to follow the PPT. Hence, I request you to please relax, and my pace of talk also is, I think, okay with you. If it is not fine, you may please mention it in the chat box so that, sir, you are not properly audible or whatever it may be. From my case, it is fine. Maybe you may have to set your internet or your voice, etc. I think our chairman just appeared on the video here. Sir, my presentation is fine for this medium. This space is okay, sir? I think chairman is...
I think mute, chairman, you are on mute. Yes, sir, you are very much audible, very much, visible
and clear.
Yes, yes, yes.
Very good, sir. No problem.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Friends, in the GST, you have the CGST Act, SGST Act, IGST Act. There are these three. Friends, when GST was implemented, we all thought it is one law. Yes, it is one law. See, I know of a very famous film personality. See, there are certain film personalities, directors, who will title the film so very well that people throng to the theaters to watch the movie. I can immediately remember two persons from the Hindi and the Gujarati film industry, Dada Kondke, and from the Tamil film industry, K. Bhagyaraj. They were master storytellers and their titles used to be great. In fact, two titles, if I can remember. In Hindi, one film came, Andheri Raat Mein, Diya Tere Haath Mein, Dada Kondke's film. The title is so great, everyone runs to see what is this Andheri Raat Mein, what is it that Diya Tere Haath Mein. And there is another film, just an example, K. Bhagyaraj film in Tamil, Chinna Veedu. What a title, everyone runs to see the film. Film title is so interesting, people throng to it, and similar is GST. We said GST, GST, GST. And once you entered the film theater, you found CGST, SGST, IGST. Esteemed friends, all the three are different legislations when it comes to taxation. You must first understand that. The levy is the same. The levy is the same. Who collects the tax? They are different people. This is the sum and substance as to why the place of supply provisions are there contained in the IGST Act. CGST is collected by the central government. If it is 18% rate of tax, 9% CGST will go to central government. 9% will go to state government in full. If it is union territory, it goes to union territory. So 50-50 will go to both the governments. In the case of IGST, nothing goes to the state immediately. The IGST goes to the central coffers. And from the central coffers, as and when the central government makes a calculation, as and when the central government has money, at their own whims and fancies, based upon the recommendations of the Finance Commission of India, the IGST so collected is distributed. Now see the difference, friends. When your client is charging CGST, SGST, the component to SGST, the component of SGST goes to the state immediately. But when your client is charging IGST, it doesn't go to that state. We are following destination-based tax. Look at the difference. In the origin-based taxation, when the goods move from one state to another state, CST is charged by which state? From where the movement commences. Which state collects the tax? The state from where the movement starts. Which means the state retains the sales tax as well as the CST. What is the difference in GST? The difference in GST is if it is SGST, the state retains because intra-state. But if it is IGST, the difference is the tax goes to another state, another state, another state. From Ernakulam, if the goods are moved to Bangalore, two different states, Kerala, Karnataka. In the sales tax regime, in the CST regime, central sales tax regime, the Ernakulam dealer would have charged. The Ernakulam dealer would have charged what? The Ernakulam dealer would have charged CST, central sales tax. He will charge the invoice. He will collect the tax. Or even if he is not collecting the tax, he will pay the tax to which government? State of Kerala. State of Kerala. Now, look at IGST. When IGST is charged, which state becomes the beneficiary of that tax? It is Karnataka. It is state of Karnataka which becomes beneficiary. Beneficiary, sir. But the central government gets that money for distribution at a later date. Please check up with your respective governments or go to the site of your respective government to see what is the dues by the central government to the state with respect to the IGST component. I come from the state of Tamil Nadu. I am a resident of this state, born and brought up in this state, in Chennai. As far as I know, about 4,000 plus crores of money is due by the central government to this state, being the IGST component. Being the IGST component. If the correct tax is not levied, I am not talking of rate, I am talking of levy. If the correct levy is not done by the dealer, instead of charging CGST, SGST, if IGST is charged, then the state from where the goods are moving, they will say, no, see, you should have charged CGST, SGST, you have charged IGST, we are not getting the benefit of this tax, please charge CGST, SGST. Or the dealer has charged CGST, SGST, but the invoice which has gone to another state or another authority is looking at that will say, see, you should have charged IGST. You have wrongly charged CGST, SGST. And because you have wrongly charged CGST, SGST, the person who has taken credit also has taken wrong credit. So, esteemed friends, during the course of these 3 years of implementation of GST in India, even as chairman of the GST and Indirect Taxes Committee of this year of ICAI and previous year as vice chairman, on numerous occasions, many of my chartered accountant friends from the length and breadth of the country called me and asked me, sir, what difference it makes whether my client charges CGST or SGST instead of IGST or vice versa. To them, my answer was, if that is the case, why then there should be different legislation? Why should the act contain that if CGST and SGST is charged wrongly instead of IGST or vice versa, the registered person can make correction by paying the correct amount of tax, correct levy of tax, and then whatever wrongly paid, he can take it back as a refund subject to other conditions in the law. Which means that there is a difference. Already I am informed that in certain states in India, the state government has started issuing notices to the registered dealers for wrong levy. Notices are coming that, see, you levied IGST, this should be CGST, SGST. That will be more, friends. In fact, not that in the sales tax era it was not there. In fact, during the course of our discussion, I am going to discuss one very, very important case law. I am going to give you the citation also. So you may have to go and download that case law and read the principles laid down by the Honorable Supreme Court. You will understand what I am talking today. In fact, the topics for this particular program are chosen in such a manner that they have a futuristic relevance. We are not discussing GSTR 9, 9C or returns. Yesterday's topic, classification of goods, you will not know the impact today, but moving forward in the GST era, you will know what a futuristic program Roy Varghese had organized and what a great session he gave us on classification that is helping us today. You will know the impact of place of supply. Not today, when department issues a letter or notice to a client, when the department is going to audit the books of accounts of your client. Friends, there are few sections which I am going to tell you in the IGST Act which you have to read. Sir, you may hear my lecture, you may hear my talk, but ultimately, friends, I want you to read these sections. Read the sections word by word and understand the sections so that you can become experts. Section 7 of the IGST Act. Section 8 of the IGST Act. Section 10 of the IGST Act. Section 12 of the IGST Act. These are extremely important sections covered by Section 13. Section 13, Section 14, which are also important sections, friends. Friends, it is these sections that we are going to discuss today. As we proceed in our discussion, sometimes I will be reading from the law per se. Law per se. Word by word, letter by letter, I will read sometimes. You have to bear with me because that is how we will be able to understand. I will also draw references from the sales tax law, from the VAT law, from the CST law. I will also draw references from the Central Excise regime. I will also draw references from the Finance Act 1994, which is the services. And thereby, together, we will understand the provisions laid down here. Sir, interstate supply and intra-state supply are the two terms which are explained in the IGST Act. In fact, what is interstate supply? What is intra-state supply are contained in Section 7 and Section 8 of the IGST Act. In fact, it is very interesting to note that both these sections will starts with the word subject to the provisions of section 10, which means the provisions of section 10 will prevail over section 7 and section 8 wherever a carve out is drawn. We'll see a little while later when we go to section 10. Now, the section 7 deals with interstate supply. Now, what is this section and what it talks about interstate supply? Let us see for next 5 minutes. Now, what this provision says is that where the location of the supplier and the place of supply are in two different states, two different union territories, one state and in another union territory, supply of goods is in the course of interstate trade or commerce. Supply of goods. This is point number 1. Clause number 2 talks of goods imported into the territory of India. The law says, the provision says, supply of goods imported into the territory of India till they reach the customs frontiers of India, till they cross the customs frontier of India, shall be treated as supply of goods in the course of interstate trade or commerce. This is clause number 2. Now, clause number 3 again talks of services similar to goods. So, where the location of the supplier and place of supply are two different states, two different union territories, one state in and another union territory, it is interstate supply. Now, friends, with respect to services within India, the provision is very simple. Any supply of services imported into territory of India shall be treated as supply of interstate trade or commerce. Any supply of services within India from one state to another state, I have already told you. But look at that one single difference I have to now tell you what it says. Now, supply of goods or services or both to or by a special economic zone developer or a special economic zone unit. Okay? In the taxable territory shall be an interstate trade, interstate supply only. So friends, you will have to know this, that when goods or services are supplied to a unit in special economic zone, it is interstate supply. Even if it is within your own state, it is interstate supply. Friends, not wasting much of our time in understanding interstate supply, intrastate supply, which is very simple, which you as chartered accountant can understand. This carve out difference I wanted to tell you, and I have told you this with respect to SEZ, there is a difference. But one particular point I want to bring it to your notice is an explanation. There are two explanations. There are two explanations to section 8. What is the explanation? Now, the explanation is like this. Where a person has an establishment in India and any establishment outside India. Look at this. All these are going to be extremely tricky and careful. Be careful. Where a person has an establishment in India and any establishment outside India, an establishment in a state or union territory in India and any establishment outside that state or territory, an establishment in a state or union territory and any other establishment registered within that state or union territory, those such establishments shall be treated as establishment of distinct persons. Which means what? Which means head office branch, branch, they are all treated as distinct persons. Company X has headquarters in Mumbai and has 20 branches across India. All these are treated as distinct persons as per this explanation. Company X has a branch head office in India and Y branch outside India. It is treated as a distinct establishment. Why? Because of taxation impact, friends. Taxation impact. Okay. Now, where a business is carried on through a branch, agency, or a representational office in any territory in India, it shall be treated as having an establishment in that territory. So, agent, representational office will also be treated as a establishment of that particular GST registered person. Okay, friends? Yes. Now, so these are basic provisions that you have understood. Now we are going to go to the key provisions of section 10 and section 12. Section 10 deals with goods. Section 12 deals with services. Goods, you can see, you can feel, you can touch, you can smell. They are all available and to be seen with the naked eye. Services are not. But friends, goods per se in section 10, services per se in section 12. First, let us see goods. Is it possible, just for a moment, I'll pause here. Is it possible that one state says you should have levied CGST, SGST and issues a notice, and another state says you should have levied IGST and issues a notice? Tell yes or no. Members may type the replies in this chat box which is here. Let me see how many of you are typing yes, how many are typing no. That is, one registered person can get two notices from two different states. CGST, one, let us say Karnataka says you should have levied IGST. Kerala says you should have levied CGST, SGST. Is it possible? Let us see. I am just doing the answers here. Yeah. Very good. Some of you are telling yes, some of you are telling no. Arun Rao, Joshi Andrews, Nidhi Bansal, Kamal Balani, Natesh Hande, Priyanka Datta, Pooja Somani, Rupesh Pai, Vivek Jain, Satya Sunil, Ekta Bhanuka, Ganeshan Viswanathan, Anshul Arora, Annu Agarwal, Ashwini Talekar. Okay, enough. Please stop, members. Please stop. Enough. So basically, so many of you have answered yes, some of you have answered no. Now, I want you to understand this concept. As you know, India is a federal country. Each state. What is India? India is union of states. That's all. India is union of states. And each state has the right to tax and right to collect tax within their jurisdiction. Now, what is this 10(1) small a? The place of supply of goods other than goods imported into or exported out of India shall be. This is the most important key, because place of supply will determine CGST, SGST or IGST. Okay. What this provision says, where the supply involves movement of goods. The concept of movement is very, very important. The concept of movement was there in the CST era also. So the concept is as such imported from CST and kept in IGST. Where the supply involves movement of goods, whether by the supplier 1 or by the recipient 2 or by any other person, then the place of supply of such goods means what? Those goods which are being moved shall be the location of the goods at the time at which the movement of goods terminates. See, there is a shift from the sales tax era. There, the movement commences. Here, the movement terminates. One of the friends typed in the chat box that in GST law, they don't use the word destination. Sir, this is used here. Goods terminates. See, unfortunately, many of the chartered accountants never practiced sales tax or VAT law except doing audits. They never deeply practiced it. So majority had no opportunity to appreciate the difference between where the movement commences and where the movement terminates. So here it is destination based. That is why they use the word at which the movement of goods terminates for delivery to the recipient. So, where the supply involves movement of goods by the supplier or the recipient or by any other person, the place of supply of such goods shall be the location of those goods at the time the movement of goods terminates for delivery to the recipient. You have to understand it very carefully. In fact, I told you I'll be giving you a case law, and you please read those principles also. The case law is Indian Oil Corporation versus Union of India and others. One of the classic cases of the Supreme Court. Indian Oil Corporation and Union of India versus others. There were 5 parties who were respondents. It is a Supreme Court decision 1981 SCR 1673. 1981 SCR 1673. In fact, what is the classic case? I'll tell you. Indian Oil Corporation has their refinery in state of Bihar. Barauni in the state of, I think, yeah, it is in Barauni in state of Bihar, if I'm not wrong. But in the state of Bihar. They have a customer in Uttar Pradesh. Indian Oil Corporation also has an office in Uttar Pradesh, where an agreement between the Indian Oil Corporation Uttar Pradesh office and their customer, who is none other than Indian Explosives Limited, I think. They also have their office in Uttar Pradesh. Both of them enter into an agreement that for the next 20 years, Indian Oil Corporation will sell them naphtha gas from their Barauni unit in Bihar. Look at me, please be very careful when I'm telling you, please listen to me carefully. Indian Oil Corporation Uttar Pradesh engages into an agreement with the Indian Explosives Limited, their customer, who is also in Uttar Pradesh. Both of them are in Uttar Pradesh, remember. In the agreement, it is said that Indian Oil Corporation shall sell from Barauni in the state of Bihar, their refinery in Bihar, naphtha gas to Indian Explosives Limited. Now, naphtha is a gas. So, a pipeline is laid by Indian Oil Corporation from Barauni till their godown, till their storage area in Kanpur. And from Kanpur till the carriage line of Indian Explosives Limited, again a pipeline is laid. And from that pipeline till the inside of the Indian Explosives Limited, the pipeline is laid by Indian Explosives Limited. That means till the factory gate of the pipeline of Indian Explosives Limited, it is the pipeline of Indian Oil Corporation. And from the factory gate till inside their factory, the pipeline belongs to Indian Explosives Limited. What happens? Naphtha gas, which is again goods, moves from Barauni and it comes to Kanpur storage yard. From there, it is again connected to another pipe, and those goods move up to the factory gate of Indian Explosives Limited. And from there, the gas is joined by the pipeline of Indian Explosives Limited, and Indian Explosives Limited consumes that gas in manufacture of urea, the fertilizer.